Hello, everyone. And the dogs just start running up and downstairs mental. What's up, Tilly? I think there's someone at the door. I'm pretty sure they'll go away. Anyway, this is an unexpected live. Finally, after 8 months of a trial and 110 hours of jury deliberations, there is finally a decision on the guilt of Lucy Letby. So this came within the last hour. This is breaking news. And she's been found guilty of 7 counts of murder and 6 counts of attempted murder. But she has been acquitted on some of the counts. So let's go through it. First of all, though, you might not even know who Lucy Letby is. I'm guessing that if you're in the UK, you might have heard of Lucy Letby. But if you're outside of the UK, I don't know that you will have. I've had many requests to cover Lucy Letby over the last few months. And I'm going to admit that I haven't followed the trial closely. I know there have been podcasts and things, but in the UK, trials are not televised. So you're relying on kind of secondhand information from journalists. And over 8 months, that's a concerted effort to keep following it. So I'm gonna just say I haven't followed the ins and outs of the trial. And I've told people that I'll cover this case once there is a verdict. And today it came. So we're going to go through who Lucy Letby is. For those of you who have absolutely no idea who I'm talking about, she is a serial killer that has murdered 7 babies and tried to murder a multitude of others. As I said, she has been acquitted on some of the counts that they charged her with. I think she was charged with 22 counts overall. So she's very similar to the Beverly Allitt case. If anybody remembers Beverly Allitt, she's pretty well known in the UK. I did cover Beverly Allitt in one of my very first episodes of Crime Stories Sunday. I covered Beverly. I've been astonished that there's another one. Another one. I mean, there's several of these, right? Killer nurses. And then, of course, we have killer doctors as well. You know, one of the biggest serial killers of UK history is Dr. Harold Shipman. And I also got a video about Harold Shipman. He was one of the very, very first cases I covered when I started Michelle After Dark. But it's had about, 600 views or something like that. So I don't know. Anyway, Lucy Letby. It is brilliant news, Debbie. It is brilliant news. Hello, everyone, by the way. Hello. Yeah. She's not been sentenced yet. They absolutely do. They absolutely do. They've all gone quiet now, which concerns me. It always concerns me. You're not late. I've literally just started. Were they disabled babies? No, not all of them. They were just sick babies. Sick babies. So some of them like premature babies and babies who needed constant medical care. And Lucy Letby just betrayed them and betrayed the families. So, yeah, at last. All right, so who is she? Right, I'm reading this from the BBC. They posted this an hour ago. And this just gives some basic background. And then the police, Cheshire Police, have released some footage. So we're going to have a look at that as well. And I think there might be a press conference coming. I don't know. I might have missed the presser, but we can always go and find it if I've missed it. She is a monster. Absolute monster. Absolute monster. Yeah. Monster. I mean, this type of serial killer, you know, we don't really consider people like this to be serial killers, but of course they are. When we think of the term serial killer, we think of Jeffrey Dahmer, or we think of Ted Bundy, or we think about an evil man in a raincoat with a knife or a gun and, killing women or just killing random people. But no, serial killers come in all shapes and sizes. And Lucy Letby is a perfect example of somebody that you just absolutely do not expect to want to take the lives of innocent people. And but yet it happens. And there's been numerous cases like this. Anyway, let's go through the background and then we'll play some of the footage that the police have just released. So, early one morning, July 2018, Lucy Letby was arrested for the first time. So, she's a neonatal nurse. So, she's looking after premature babies who are very sick, who need, round the clock attention. And she was only 28 at the time, 28 years old in 2018. So she was questioned about the number of babies that were dying on her ward, but she was released at first, right? She was arrested another 2 times after this. What was her method? She used insulin, so injecting babies with insulin. She was force feeding them. She was injecting air into their bloodstream. So she used a variety of methods, but very covert methods. Which hospital? The Chester Hospital. So not too far away from me, really. Cheshire's south of me, not too far away though. And the trial has been at Manchester Crown Court, which is about 30 miles from me. Okay. So what followed that initial arrest, because they had to let her go at first, they didn't have enough to detain her and charge her at the time. So they went through a 2-year investigation by Cheshire Police, which involved a mammoth effort, 70 officers, but also a bunch of civilian staff, like surveillance, everything, the works. They threw everything at it. And it had its own kind of operation code name, Operation Hummingbird. And it was because there was just this unexpected spike in these babies dying. I mean, obviously, it's a neonatal unit. So, yes, of course, there are going to be, sadly, fatalities. If a baby is born very, very early, very, very premature, they only have, at best a 50-50 chance of survival if they're very early. And they've got a potentially a multitude of medical issues, which I think has created a massive problem for the investigation, because some of those babies might have died anyway. I think it's why it's taken so long for the jury to deliberate, and why some of the charges she's been acquitted of. How do we know they were correct of the guilty ones? We don't. We've just got to, I guess, trust the process. And of course, she does have a right to appeal. Okay. So this case has been rumbling along for 5 years now. So she was released on bail, but then, as I said, arrested twice more, and ultimately charged in November 2020. Once Operation Hummingbird had collected enough evidence. So this has been going on. The trial has been going on since October last year. I thought I was going to make a video around Christmas time about Lucy Letby. That was what I was planning. I was thinking, right, the trial's going to be done and dusted by Christmas. I'll do a big video or a live on Lucy Letby at the end of the trial. I did not realize that we would be in August 2023 and we're only just getting a decision. Panorama has a program coming out, do they? I shall watch that. She was horrible. Horrible. I know. I think evil witches like this, quite frankly, should be burnt at the stake. It's just evil. Evil. Okay, so she was accused of murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 10 others between June 2015 and June 2016. She denied all 22 charges against her, but today, this afternoon, finally, after 110 hours of jury deliberation, she was found guilty of 7 counts of murder. So all of the murder charges she was found guilty of, and then 7 of the attempted murders. She was acquitted on 2 counts of attempted murder, and then jurors were unable to reach verdicts on 6 other attempted murder charges involving 4 babies. Okay, so 7 women, 4 men. So what do we know about Lucy Letby? And these artistic images, they're well known in UK courts. Not allowed to take photos or anything like that in UK courts. So they have an artist. She's as bad as Ruth Dyer from the 1800s. Yeah. Yeah. She was looking at the family's Facebook accounts. She wrote notes admitting she was a monster and that she'd done it. That was enough for me. Absolutely. 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 Apparently the pediatric consultant was trying to get the hospital to call the police for ages. The hospital tried to sweep it under the rug. Yeah, that's what happened in Beverly Alex's case as well, because they were massively understaffed at the time. And that was years ago. And you think that they'd have learned the lesson, but I mean, to be honest, the NHS, I'm not going to get political about it, but the NHS has been ground down. It's just horrendous. Getting any form of medical care on the NHS in the UK is very, very difficult. So these nurses, they're very overworked. The doctors are stressed all the time. The amount of staff sickness and things like that, the waiting lists. But neonatal units do tend to have reasonably good funding. Neonatal units do tend to be some of the safest places around, except for when you get a killer nurse like Lucy Letby. So she was born on the 4th of January 1990. She grew up in Hereford with her mother and father, John and Susan, who've been at the trial every day and have watched the trial from the public gallery. So we don't know very much about her early life, but she obviously got a decent education. She went to college, selected subjects she believed help her achieve her goals and aspirations. She always wanted to work. She always wanted to work with children, and she was the first person in her family to go to university. She studied nursing for 3 years at the University of Chester. She completed numerous work placements, and nursing students, like I used to work at a university where the nursing people were, I was on the 2nd floor. The nursing people were all on the 3rd floor, and they work incredibly hard. They work trainee nurses hard. They do a whole battery of placements, and they're very well supervised as students. So she's not wanting for an education. Yeah. when you get someone who's a serial killer of 7 babies, I trust the jury's decision. When they've had an 8-month trial and they've deliberated for 110 hours, then I trust the process. So yeah, burn the bitch. That's my monetization gone. Yeah, horrible job now. Yeah, I've got nurses in my family. My auntie was a nurse for many years. Retired now. My cousin's a paramedic. He has some interesting stories to tell. Retired nurse, left NHS years ago. Best decision you ever made. It's hard work. Hard work. Who knows? Who knows? Highly educated serial killer. Yeah, that's why serial killers aren't just Jeffrey Dahmer. They aren't just Ted Bundy. They aren't just Gary Ridgway or BTK. They come in all shapes and sizes, and they come from every demographic. This is a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. She got exactly what she wanted. She worked hard and she qualified as a nurse. She did a placement at the Countess of Chester Hospital, either on the children's ward or the neonatal unit. She qualified as a band 5 nurse in September 2011. I don't know what a band 5 nurse is. I assume that's like the starting band, is it? And then she started working full-time at the hospital from January 2012. She qualified to work with intensive care babies in 2015. She told the court her workload from that time was predominantly spent looking after the sickest babies on the unit. So that's a good defense. Because if you're looking after the sickest babies, then a considerable proportion of them are going to die, sadly. You know, those that are born very early might have medical issues that just don't go away, and they can have multiple issues, very complex care that they're needed. And it's a staff nurse. Okay, that doesn't help me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because a lot of them die anyway. So if you want to, you know, you fancy taking innocent people's lives, then a neonatal unit's a good place. And it is a good defense because these babies are very sick. So she also mentored 5 or 6 student nurses and estimated that she cared for hundreds of newborn babies during 2015 and 16. So that's inside the neonatal unit at the Countess of Chester Hospital. So in September 2016, she was officially informed in a letter from the Royal College of Nursing that she was under investigation over the death of babies. So she'd actually only been working in the neonatal unit a year when they'd started to become concerned. Who's that? Andrew Malkinson? I've no idea. I don't know. Probably. Who is it? I've no idea. I'm being facetious because I don't know who it is. If you don't like me burning people at the stake, what do you prefer? Firing squad? Is that more humane? Okay, we'll do firing squad instead. All right. Okay. Or do you want to hang them high? I'm happy with anything. Okay, so earlier that year, she'd been removed. Oh, drowning. Let's drown them all. They also did that to witches. Earlier that year, she'd been removed from clinical duties and given a clerical role because they thought she was a risk. So at least Google it. No, I'm not going to Google it. I'm busy. So the hospital actually did the right thing in taking her away from the frontline duties, and gave her a clerical role. I mean, how many more murders would there have been if they hadn't have made that decision? I don't care. I wouldn't burn a rapist at the stake. I'm only talking about serial killers. I'm talking about witches, Jamie. Get with the program, son, or get lost. You're getting on my nerves now. Rapists don't get burnt at the stake. They get castrated with no anaesthetic. And then we'll work it out from there. Okay. At the time, it was they did this under a guise, you know, that they had concerns, but they hadn't voiced them yet. So this was to check staff were competent to do their jobs, and she hoped to return to the job she loved. But 6 years later, she's sitting in the dock. No previous convictions, no cautions, nothing. And yeah, that's her. All her life ahead of her. What was she thinking? Her defence team argued the deaths and collapses were due to serial failures in care in the unit. This is the defence that Beverly Allick used as well. And she was the victim of a system that wanted to apportion blame when it failed. It's a good defence because the NHS has been purposefully, and I mean purposefully, ground into the dirt. Release the snark. Yeah, well, I get pissy with people who come into my chat, right? You know, I'm pro death penalty. So why are you giving me these completely irrelevant cases when I'm talking about serial killers? I'm not talking about rapists. Castrate the bastards. All right, I'm already demonetized, so fuck it. All right. Wasn't there 2 hospitals? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know, actually. Are they really? They're investigating another hospital. Oh, really? All right. So during the trial, jurors were given a glimpse into Letby's life outside of work, with her once private WhatsApp and social media messages read to court. So she had an active social life. She used to go to salsa classes, go out with friends, go on holidays, go to the gym. She started to cry as pictures of her home, where she was first arrested, were shown to the jury. So I'm guessing that's her home, her bedroom, her home in Chester. Well, she'll have a nice, comfy home at His Majesty's pleasure from now on. Because sentencing on Monday, I'm hoping for a good length of time for Lucy Letby. If you remember Thomas Cashman, that absolute drongo from Liverpool who shot 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Coble, he got 42 years. So hopefully somebody like Lucy Letby, I'm going for a whole life tariff. I'm going for a whole life, but I bet she won't get it. Because we're too soft. We're too soft here in the UK. It's time we got harsh with these people. I can't be doing with it. How many cases do we cover in true crime where horrible things are done to children? Right? If you kill children, I'm sorry, you do not deserve to breathe anymore. And if little do-gooders, you know, the little snowflakes like Jamie want to argue, then we'll argue. But at this time, we're not talking about rapists. We're talking about baby killers. Baby killers. She lived in staff accommodation at Ash House before moving to a flat in Chester. Okay. All right. Okay, we don't care. Oh, she was a godmother. Wow. On her bed, she had Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore cuddly toys, while a drawer in the living room contained various documents and medical notes for her 2 cats named Tigger and Smudge. Letby has been remanded in custody since November 2020. She's been in 4 different prisons. Hopefully, she's had a really hard time in all of them. Okay, so let's turn to the BBC. Beverly Alex out in... I don't know, actually. Hold on. Beverly Alex released. So it was reported that some families of Alex victims have previously mistakenly believed that her minimum tariff had been set at 40 years. Her minimum tariff expired in 2021 and she's now eligible for parole. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. This is what I'm telling you. This is what I'm telling you. Well, was she released? Is she out on parole? I mean, say 30-year minimum sentence. Blah, 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 blah. Where's Beverly Alex now? She better not have been released. Well, that's nothing. Bloody hell. Good old Wikipedia might tell me. Can somebody tell me if she's been released? She better not have been. Because she's definitely a few slices short of a loaf. She'll do something else stupid. Okay, all right, we'll read this article. What's this? Stop it. Go away, advert. For the angel of death nurse Beverly Alex to never be released. Blah, blah, blah. The killing spree lasted 59 days in 1991. During the same month. Yep. She was only 24 when she was found guilty. But she was an absolute Fruit Loop, Beverly Alex. She's sent to Rampton Hospital in Nottinghamshire, which is one of the 3 high-security psychiatric hospitals in England and Wales. And to be fair, they're not a walk in the park. Psychiatric hospitals, they're as bad as prison. So she can only bid for parole if deemed well enough to move to a mainstream jail. It's believed every 3 years a mental health panel meets to assess Alex, who is now 54. However, David, 68, said, if it was down to me, I would not want to see her released. Neither would I. This is why we should just end them. All this money that's spent on them. Has she been released or not? It's not telling me. Does anybody know? Wasn't Susan released in 2000? Who's Susan? Susan who? We're talking about Beverly. You asked Alexa. Well, I'm asking Google. I'm asking Google, and I can't find any answers. Except that she's eligible for parole. You don't think she has? I don't think she has. I don't think she would be deemed well enough. But anyway, let's get back to Lucy. Okay, so this is footage that's been released by Cheshire Police, which is being played on the BBC. So let's have a go. I think this is her arrest. I haven't actually watched this. I just I just had a flick through and saw some footage, so I thought, oh, we'll play that. Probably released with a new identity. She better not have been. It is a lot of content. I'll be live later on over on Michelle After Dark for Coburger's hearing, another drongo who at least has a chance of facing a firing squad if he's proven guilty. At least Idaho aren't soft. It says she's been eligible for parole. She's been held in Nottingham. Yeah, she's got to spend some time in an actual prison because she's been in a psychiatric hospital. To prove that she's well enough, she has to go to a prison. I don't know how many years she has to spend in a prison. No, they can't. No, they can't. That's why it's just better for everybody if they don't breathe anymore. All right, let's watch this footage. Let me know if you can hear it. The audio won't be good anyway, but let me know that you can hear it.
First time that she was arrested, you can see the police go to the door of her home in Chester. You can see her opening the door. They went inside for a period of about 10 or 15 minutes, and then you see Lucy Letby brought out to the waiting police car. I think her face as well, if you look at the expression on her face in this footage as she is led out to that waiting police car to be taken and questioned. As we explained, she was actually arrested on 3 separate occasions before those 22 charges were actually brought. There were 30 hours or so of police interviews that were carried out with her. And in fact, again, I just want to show you one of those interviews, or a very, very small excerpt of one of those interviews that the police have shared with us as well. It's quite difficult to hear, but you can see we've put the words on the screen. She's being talked to by the police, and they are asking her if she realizes why she's there, if she knows why she might have been called for questioning. And you can see there that she is saying that she was aware. She said as a nursing team, they were aware of what was happening. Let's just see that clip.
They told me that there would be a lot more deaths and that I've been linked to somebody that was there for a lot of them. Did you have any concerns that there was a rise in the mortality rate? Yes. Okay, so tell me about that. What concerns did you have? I think we'd all just noticed as a team in general, the nursing staff, that this was a rise compared to previous years.
That is new footage that has just been released by Cheshire Constabulary just in the minutes really following this verdict. And in fact, Dan O'Donoghue is still with me, our reporter who was in court throughout this trial. And in that, Lucy Letby is talking about the rise in infant deaths on the unit, something which she acknowledged that as a nursing team they were aware of. And in fact, that was a key part of the defence case, wasn't it? They were suggesting that these deaths were nothing to do with Lucy Letby. They were suggesting that it was to do with failings of care in that.
Yeah, like I said, it's a good defence. It's as good a defence as any. Apparently, the babies that she's been found guilty of in this trial are from Chester Hospital. So if there's an investigation going on at another hospital, I'm not aware that that's been included in this trial. So they're investigating 2 deaths when she worked at Liverpool Women's Hospital as well. Yeah, probably. They think they're not going to get caught. Yeah. Yeah. I know, it's horrendous. Horrendous. Okay, let's skip forward. There may be a press conference because they've got all the cameras and stuff set up. Hospital bosses ignored warnings about Lucy Letby. Well, at least they... Is there going to be a presser or not? At least they got her away from the babies, eventually. Government orders Letby independent inquiry. Yeah, the government are good at doing independent inquiries. Oh, there's a mugshot. There's a mugshot. That's what we like to see, a good mugshot. Lost it now. Oh. Darn. There it is. BBC, move your banner. That's a good mugshot. Liverpool Women's Hospital is the other place she's associated with that's being looked into. Yeah, she looks so sweet. Yeah, like I said, serial killers come in all shapes and sizes. They're every demographic. Evil walks among us. Well, was there a presser? Oh, yeah, there's a presser. Hold on. Let's get to the beginning. All right, let's watch the presser from here. Okay.
Nursing officer for England. She says Lucy Letby committed appalling crimes that were a terrible betrayal of the trust placed in her, and our thoughts are with the families affected who've experienced pain and suffering that few of us can imagine. Colleagues within the nursing profession and across the health service have been shocked and sickened to learn what she did. Actions beyond belief to the nurses and staff who are working so hard to save lives and to care for patients. On behalf of us all, I'd like to express our profound apologies to the families for all that they have been through. And it concludes by saying the NHS is fully committed to doing everything we can to prevent anything like this ever happening again. And we welcome the independent inquiry announced by the Department of Health and Social Care to help ensure that we learn every possible lesson from this awful case. That is the inquiry that has been announced by the government just...
Oh, they say that every single time that something like this happens, they say it must never happen again. It must never happen again. Let's have an inquiry about why it happened. And then in another few years, there'll be another one. And then a few years after that, there'll be another one. And nobody learns a damn thing. No one. No one. Dear me. Dear me.
In the last few minutes. I also want to remind you of the statements that we heard here on the court steps at Manchester Crown Court at the conclusion of that trial. We heard, first of all, from Detective Chief Inspector...
There's already been a presser. All right. Well, I missed it. Are they going to play it again?
This has been a long and emotional journey for all of the families involved in this case. I speak on behalf of the entire prosecution team when I say that all of their babies will forever be in our hearts. I would like to thank all of the families in this case for their exceptional resilience and strength throughout this entire investigation. Their composure and their dignity during this trial has been truly overwhelming. The investigation into the circumstances surrounding this case started in May 2017. Since that time, Hundreds of witnesses have been spoken by a team of dedicated detectives. Many of those witnesses have returned to court on numerous occasions to give evidence. Without their honesty and their support, the families would not have received the justice that they have received today. I cannot begin to imagine how the families in this case feel today. I just hope that today's verdicts bring all of them some peace of mind for the future, and that we have answered some of the questions that they were looking for. Cheshire Constabulary will continue to support all of the families in this case in the coming days and weeks ahead. There will be a period of reflection as everybody comes to terms with what they've experienced here today.
Well, that was Detective Chief Inspector Nicola Evans from Cheshire Police. And we heard next from Pascal Jones. She's a senior prosecutor at the Crown Prosecution Service.
Lucy Letby was entrusted to protect some of the most vulnerable babies. Little did those working alongside her know that there was a murderer in their midst. She did her utmost to conceal her crimes by varying the ways in which she repeatedly harmed babies in her care. She sought to deceive her colleagues and pass off the harm she caused as nothing more than a worsening of each baby's existing vulnerability. In her hands, innocuous substances like air, milk, or medication like insulin would become lethal. She perverted her learning and weaponized her craft to inflict harm, grief, and death. Time and again, she harmed babies in an environment which should have been safe for them and their families. Parents were exposed to her morbid curiosity and her fake compassion. Too many of them returned home to empty baby rooms. Many surviving children live with permanent consequences of her assault upon their lives. Her attacks were a complete betrayal of the trust placed in her. My thoughts are with families of the victims who may never have closure, but who now have answers to questions which had troubled them for years.
That is Pascal Jones, who's a senior prosecutor at the Crown Prosecution Service. And we heard finally a statement that was read out on behalf of the families. Now, the identities of the babies in this case and the identities of their parents and their surviving siblings has been protected. So in cases like this, sometimes you do hear families themselves making statements on the court steps. In this case, all of that happened in a protected way during the trial, and instead we heard a statement read out on behalf of all of the families from Janet Moore, who was the family liaison officer.
I've been asked to read out a statement on behalf of all the families in this case. Words cannot effectively explain how we are feeling at this moment in time. We are quite simply stunned. To lose a baby is a heartbreaking experience that no parent should ever have to go through. But to lose a baby or to have a baby harmed in these particular circumstances is unimaginable. Over the past 7 to 8 years, we've had to go through a long, torturous and emotional journey. From losing our precious newborns and grieving their loss, seeing our children who survived, some of whom are still suffering today, to being told years later that their death or collapse might be suspicious. Nothing can prepare you for that news. Today, justice has been served, and a nurse who should have been caring for our babies has been found guilty of harming them. But this justice will not take away from the extreme hurt, anger and distress that we've all had to experience. Some families did not receive the verdict that they expected, and therefore it is a bittersweet result. We are heartbroken, devastated, angry and feel numb. We may never truly know why this happened. Words cannot express our gratitude to the jury who had to sit through 145 days of gruelling evidence, which has led to today's verdict. We recognise that this has not been an easy task for them, and we will forever be grateful for their patience and resilience throughout this incredibly difficult process. The police investigation began in 2017, and we've been supported from the very beginning by a team of experienced and dedicated family liaison officers. We want to thank these officers for everything that they've done for us. Medical experts, consultants, doctors and nursing staff have all given evidence at court, which at times has been extremely harrowing and distressing for us to listen to. However, we recognise the determination and commitment that each witness has shown in ensuring that the truth was told. We acknowledge that the evidence given by each of them has been key in securing today's verdict. Finally, we would like to acknowledge and thank the investigation team and more recently the prosecution team who've led the trial to a successful conclusion. The search for the truth has remained at the forefront of everyone's minds, and we will forever be grateful for this. We would now ask for time in peace to process what has happened as we come to terms with today's verdict. I would now also like to read out a statement on behalf of the team of family liaison officers who've worked as part of Operation Hummingbird. On behalf of our team, dedicated family liaison officers, I would like to thank all of the families for the immense fortitude and extreme resilience that they've shown over the years. They have acted with dignity and reservedness during a very long trial, whilst hearing the most horrendous evidence. We are all extremely humbled by them. I hope that the support that we have provided to all of the families has been of some comfort to them during an incredibly difficult period. We have worked closely alongside His Majesty's Court Service to ensure that the families have been able to watch court proceedings in Manchester as well as remotely over the past 10 months. This has assisted them greatly in being able to view the trial with more ease. We would like to thank court staff for all their help with this. Whilst today's verdict can by no means relieve the suffering that families have gone through and are still going through, we hope that will bring them some comfort. Our thoughts remain with you all. Thank you.
That is Janet Moore, who's the family liaison.
So sad. So sad. She's in a medical facility. Well, the cost, whether she's in prison, whether she's going to spend the next however many years in prison, or she's going to be in a psychiatric unit, it's going to cost the taxpayer thousands and thousands of pounds per year. There we go. It's the taxpayer. Like me. I've got some wood and some matches. Just bring around here. We'll get a bonfire going. We can have treacle toffee and the works. That won't cost anything. Just bring around here. I'll sort it. Oh, for all you snowflakes. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. Or am I? What an evil witch. Evil, evil witch. Just horrendous. Absolute piece of garbage. Time for that. Good. I do love a good treacle toffee. I struggle with treacle toffee because my teeth are in bad shape after many years of chewing toffees like treacle toffees and Pepsi Max. My teeth are in bad shape. So treacle toffee, like anything that's hard and sticky, I struggle with it. So it takes me a while to eat treacle toffee, but I do love it. She's no soul. She has no soul. It's just evil personified. I don't care what psychiatric conditions she might have been diagnosed with. I don't care. She's never going to get better. She's never going to be safe. So, yeah. Michelle, why what? Why what? Why treacle toffee? Treacle toffee is just a traditional thing that you have when you burn Guy Fawkes at the stake. So, I don't know. It's just what you do. You bring the marshmallows. Cool. Constant appeals on death row. Well, do you know what I reckon they should do? They should, when they sentence someone to death, right, they should get a year to appeal. They get one chance to appeal, and they get the best defense team. They get everything they need, but they only get a year. After which time, if their appeal is unsuccessful, then they take them outside and they do the deed. So maximum is a year that these people have to have money spent on them. These people are on death row for 30, 40 years. What's the point? What's the point? The whole system needs to change. But in my country, there's absolutely no chance. No chance. They'll just carry on giving really lenient sentences. Very few people get whole life tariffs. Very few. And then we get situations like Beverly Allitt, who are eligible for parole, and it's down to a team of probably barely trained people to decide whether or not these people get to walk among us again. It's wrong. The system's wrong. It's broken. It's broken. So I don't know what else to say. But you know my thoughts. I've always been pro-death penalty. In the cases where they cannot be rehabilitated. So anybody who's murdered more than once, in my opinion, is going to do it again. So let's put an end to it. There are certain types of sex offenders who can't be rehabilitated. So let's do something drastic to them as well. I don't necessarily go for the death penalty, but I definitely go for things like castration. And when I talk about castration, I don't just mean neutering. I mean the whole lot. I mean the whole lot's gone. And, you know, they used to chop people's hands off for thieving. I think that's harsh. Right? That's harsh. But, you know, I don't know. I just feel that it should be an eye for an eye. I just feel it. Cut it off, yeah. Cut it off. There you go, John Venables. Thank you. Yes, John Venables. We talked about John Venables the other day on MichelleAfterDark when I did a video on Lily Peters, and the decision is being made. Her killer, who essayed her dead body. I don't even know why I'm using essay, because I've already sworn. I'm already demonetized. So he raped her dead body, right? And they're deciding whether he should be tried as an adult or not. Now, I understand that it's a very difficult subject, right? Whether Lily Peters' killer and rapist, who was 14 at the time, I understand how difficult that is, a decision to make. I can see both sides. However, if they're tried as an adult, it means that they're given a sentence that is more comparable to that of an adult rather than that of a juvenile. Doesn't mean to say that they're going to go to an adult prison straight away. They'll only go to an adult prison when actually the place that Carson's being housed at, it's a juvenile detention facility, and because he's got autism, and he absolutely does have autism, he can stay there till he's 25. What we don't want to see is him being released because some soft snowflake do-gooder thinks he's rehabilitated. That guy will never be rehabilitated. I'm sorry. And like we've got John Venables, who murdered Jamie Bulger when he was 10. He was released. How many years, right? Two 10-year-old boys abducted a 2-year-old. His mother was shopping in a busy shopping centre, and she let go of his hand so she could get money out of her purse to pay for her shopping. She reached back down and he'd gone. And he's on CCTV being walked out by two absolute scumbags who walked him 2 miles across Liverpool while he was crying. They tortured him and killed him at the age of 10. How many years do you think those two boys did? And they were tried as adults. They were tried as adults. But how many years do you think they did in prison? How many years did they do in prison? I'm going to tell you, 0 years in prison. They did 8 years in a juvenile detention centre from the age of 10 to 18. 18, when they're due to, level up to the adult prison, guess what? They were deemed to be safe. Safe to children, safe to the public. They were given, at an expense of millions of pounds, new identities. Now, they're on life licence, right? So if they do anything wrong, they can be recalled to prison. But guess what? John Venables was found with child porn. So he went to prison because he broke his licence, did some time inside. They released him. Guess what? He did it again. This time he had over 1,000 images of child porn. So he leveled up. About a quarter of them were the highest level, most nastiest porn you could have ever imagined. He did 3 years and he's out again. But none of us know who he is because he's got this new identity. Unbelievable. That's exactly who I'm talking about. John Venables. Now, Thompson, as far as we know, was not reoffended. We don't know, though, because he's got a new identity. We only know about John Venables because there was a leak. Am I familiar with the Suzanne Capper case? No, I'm not. I'm not familiar with that case. They tortured him. They tortured him. And then people have got the audacity to say that they shouldn't have been tried as adults because they're only 10. Well, I've got news for you. A 10-year-old knows right from wrong. A 10-year-old has legal culpability. A 10-year-old knows it's wrong to abduct a child, walk him 2 miles across a city, lie to over 30 people who stopped them. They lied and said he was their little brother and they were taking him home. Or they lied and said they found him and they were taking him to a police station. And these 30-odd people, I think it was 38 people, who saw them, believed them. So they were able to lie and then continue to walk him and torture him and eventually murder him. A 10-year-old knows that is wrong. So there's no reason why they cannot be tried as adults, but they need to serve the sentence of an adult. There's no such thing as rehabilitation in these absolute scumbags. But no, some burly trained idiot let them go. Oh, they're safe now. Well, they're not, are they? Or at least one of them isn't. What's he doing now, this John Venables? Right? Once he becomes not happy, not satisfied with porn on his computer, what does he do next? I wonder. Awful. Awful. Anyway, I'm going to go. I'm going to go now. And I'm going to come back. I'll be back over on Michelle After Dark. So I did a Summerwell's video came out this morning. So we're now with Coburger. Somebody said that the hearing is not mountain time. it's Pacific time, so that's going to be 6:30 my time. Hold on, let me get the exact time. Brian Koberger. Okay. Okay. 10:30 Pacific time. All right, so that's 6:30 my time. So I'll schedule the live to start at 6:30 my time. So whatever that is in your time. The hearing isn't live. So hopefully, are they going to release it after? Hold on. Are they going to release it after? Because in the last hearings, it's not been live, but they've televised it after. So hopefully they do the same. Doesn't tell me. Because it's going to be a good one. Because it's the defence want to put the kibosh on the grand jury, and they also want to put the kibosh on the DNA. They're trying everything. It's 2.5 hours from now. ASMR, tingled pink. Could do some fireworks. Yeah, we could. We could. So, yeah, in 2.5 hours, I will be back on Michelle After Dark. I'll put the scheduler up now. So the scheduler will tell you what time it is in your time. And then we'll go through the latest documents, because there's been some more documents come out that I've not talked about yet. And then hopefully we'll be able to watch the hearing once it gets released to the public. So that'd be good. All right, I'm going to go. I'll see you later. Thank you, everybody. See you shortly. Bye-bye.